Jesus, representing the Christ, symbolically the Christ. He spoke when he saw Jesus coming, the Christ. When he saw the Christ coming, he instantly said and exclaimed, hey, that's it. That's it. That's what must increase. Spirit must increase. But I, John the Baptist, human consciousness, finite consciousness, must decrease in order for spirit to increase and become the ruling proclamation of my mind. Okay, so all of that sounds good. How do we do this? First of all, we got to stop trying to tell God how to do his work. Okay. How many are guilty of that? None of you in here. Okay, I know. Now, God, you got it. You got to do da-da-da-da. God ain't God. But then it's simply bringing forth a spiritual attribute of willingness, not willfulness. Willfulness says, I'm going to do it my way regardless. Willingness says, not my will, but thy will, God. And recognizing that God's will is always good. It's always the highest best. Always. So simply through willingness, the desire to open the door to the I am knocker. Then we work at becoming self-emptied and God-filled. To do that, we invest in the growth of our own consciousness. Invest in the growth of our own consciousness. So we're not using what we're learning, the truth principles, to manifest on the outer, but we're also using the truth principles to develop on the inner. To develop the inner, because we live from within out. We live from within out. We live according to our consciousness. And what is consciousness? The sum total of all that we believe, of all that we trust, of all that we know. Because that is what runs our lives. So we want to invest in the growth of our own consciousness. And we invest in our own consciousness through, yes, we continue to read our spiritually uplifting books, but then sometimes you have to close the books. And you invest through regular practice of prayer, meditation, and silence. Yeah. Just sitting and talking. You know how our parents said, no, I was just talking to God. Yeah. Why are you crying, Mama? Just had some tears to shed. Remember that? And we invest through listening to the still small voice and trusting it. Trusting it. We have to trust what we hear. And not only when we're in deep rivers, I'll put it like that. We invest also through keeping our conversations in heaven. And what is heaven? Heaven is symbolic of a state of consciousness in harmony with divine mind. So we can't claim one way of being, having one consciousness, and then blast people with negative adjectives. Regardless if they are behaving like those negative adjectives. We still go to the reverse of what that negative adjective is, because we want to see the same spirit in them that we claim that we see everywhere. Yes. So we want to keep our conversations in heaven. Infinite consciousness, human consciousness decreases, and spiritual, infinite consciousness increases each and every time your awareness touches God within. Let me say that again. Human consciousness decreases and spiritual consciousness increases each and every time your awareness touches God within. Life is consciousness. Yeah, it is. So we better get busy and effectively use the tools of spiritual practices and principles to work our own consciousness, to change our own consciousness. When we change our consciousness, then the outer circumstances change because like begets like. It has to change. That is the law. Yeah. The spiritual law. As we expand our own consciousness, we change our experience of the world. We change our experience of those things and people and places that we see behaving adverse to divine mind. And this process of expanding our consciousness, of expanding our awareness, is an ongoing process. Through not only learning about, but most effectively applying, using those principles and truths that we hold sacred. The escalator to infinite consciousness is becoming self-emptied and God-filled. That is the escalator. We become self-emptied and God-filled each and every time you turn your attention inward to the Christ within. We're talking about the escalator of becoming self-emptied and God-filled. And it happens each and every time we touch the hem of its garment. And that is within us, not outside of us. It's simple. It's so simple. And yet we find it challenging to do it. But we do it just like we take off and put on clothing, one piece at a time. And knowing that we do not walk this earth plane, we not do it alone. We don't take that escalator to become God-filled alone. That we are companion and helped and assisted all along the way. But we must remember to get quiet, get still, to ask, to listen, and after doing all of that, to trust, regardless of what the physical eyes see. We want to see with the spiritual eyesight. Each time we turn our attention inward to the Christ within, we are becoming self-emptied and God-filled. Each time we have a prayer or hear a prayer that flutters our heart center. Each experience of sitting silently and contemplate or meditate upon that which breathes through you, you are becoming self-emptied and God-filled. With every spiritual practice you engage in, your human self empties a little bit more. And the I am consciousness flows in to fill that space. The human self changes, it rearranges. Fears diminish, doubts become clarity, anxiety turns to peace, lack